We live in a world that looks physical but is invisible in its truest nature. Everything we see, the trees, the buildings, the people we meet, they all exist in form. But behind that form, there is energy. There is frequency. There is vibration. And whether or not we're aware of it, we are constantly absorbing, transmitting, and interacting with these invisible forces. Every conversation you have, every room you walk into, every thought you think, it's all part of this great unseen exchange. And here's the truth. Some of those energies are healing, nourishing, and expansive. But others, they are toxic, manipulative, heavy. And if you're not vigilant, they will enter your field without your permission. But what if I told you that there's a single practice, one thing, that, if done with sincerity and consistency, could create such a powerful energetic shield around you that toxic energy simply couldn't enter? What if the storm could rage on outside, but your inner sanctuary would remain untouched? I'm not talking about some abstract, fluffy idea. I'm talking about a real, tangible shift in your inner world that changes everything. Let me tell you a story, a real one. I once met a monk in a remote Himalayan village. He had spent over 25 years in silence. No speaking, no contact with the outside world. Just meditation, nature, and his own breath. When I finally sat before him, I expected some grand teaching, some secret mantra that would unlock the cosmos. But he looked at me with the calmest eyes I've ever seen and said just one thing. Your field becomes untouchable the moment your inner world becomes uncluttered. At first, I didn't understand. Uncluttered, I thought. What does that even mean? But as the days passed and I observed him, I realized something profound. This man had no reaction, no triggers, no awe. He didn't resist life. He allowed everything but attached to nothing. And in that state of inner clarity, no energy, no matter how dark, could touch him, because there was nowhere for it to land. So here's the big secret I'm going to unpack with you in this journey. If you do this one thing, if you commit to inner uncluttering, toxic energy can't enter your field anymore. But wait, what is inner clutter? It's the unresolved pain you carry from childhood. It's the resentment you hold toward people who hurt you. It's the constant comparing, judging, overthinking. It's the need to be right. It's the fear of being seen, or worse, the fear of being forgotten. All of this becomes like dirty clothes hanging in the closet of your soul. And toxic energy, it's like smoke. It clings to anything it can. If your inner world is filled with hooks, toxins will find a way to latch on. So we have to ask ourselves, what am I still holding on to that gives toxic energy a home in me? What belief, what wound, what pattern am I still feeding? That makes me vulnerable to negative influence. Let's go deeper. Imagine you're walking in the forest. It's peaceful. Birds are singing. Wind is whispering through the trees. Then suddenly a stranger appears out of nowhere and starts yelling at you, insulting you, belittling you. Now in that moment, one of two things can happen. You can either absorb that energy, get angry, react, retaliate, or you can stay centered, recognize that their pain has nothing to do with you, and let it pass through like wind through trees. The difference, your inner state. If you have wounds, that attack will trigger them. If you have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, the attack can't touch you. So the first layer of this practice, this one thing, is radical self-honesty. You need to get brutally honest with yourself about what you're still carrying. What are your triggers? What are the energies that still pull you out of peace? Because those are the doors through which toxicity enters. And here's the twist. Toxic energy doesn't always come from other people. Sometimes the most dangerous toxins come from our own thoughts. The beliefs we inherited from society, from broken families, from a world that taught us we're not enough, that we have to earn love, that we must be perfect to be accepted. These are viruses of the soul, and they attract more of the same. If you believe you're unworthy, you'll attract people and situations that confirm it. That's how energy works. It's not personal, it's vibrational. So what do? How do we unclutter this mess? We start with stillness. Not the kind where you just sit quietly for a few minutes while your mind races. I mean real stillness. The kind where you confront yourself. Where you sit in silence and watch every thought, every emotion rise and fall without attachment. This is not easy. In fact, it might be the hardest thing you ever do. Because when we get still, all the noise we've been avoiding starts to surface. The pain, the shame, the regrets. But here's the beautiful part. When you stop running from it, it loses its power. Stillness is like a furnace. It burns away everything that isn't real. And in that fire, your true essence starts to shine. The part of you that is untouchable. It's a null, pure awareness. And when you live from that place, toxic energy can scream, shout, and try to knock you down, but it won't find a single crack to enter. Because you've become whole. Let me ask you something deeply personal. When was the last time you were truly still? Not scrolling, not listening to music, not numbing, just still? Can you sit with yourself for 10 minutes without distraction? Can you face your own mind without judgment? If not, why? Inner uncluttering is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming transparent. It's about removing everything that isn't you, so that only your true essence remains. And that essence, your soul, is immune to toxicity. In the next part, I'm going to share the exact practices, the practical step-by-step tools you can use to create this field of protection around you. These are not theories. These are ancient techniques, tested by mystics and yogis for thousands of years, now backed by modern science. They don't require you to change your religion, your identity, or your lifestyle. All they require is presence.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
There's a moment in every spiritual seeker's life when they realize that protection doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from crystals, amulets, or even prayers shouted into the sky. True protection, the kind that makes you energetically untouchable, rises from within you. It's the result of an inner architecture, a spiritual firewall built brick by brick through conscious, ancient practices. These practices aren't about superstition or blind faith, they're about energetic mastery. Because when your vibration is clear, grounded, and high, toxic energy simply can't match your frequency. It can't survive in your space. It's like trying to light a fire underwater. It just won't catch. So let's talk about the practices. But before we do, I want you to realize something. No amount of spiritual knowledge will help you if you don't practice. You can read all the books, listen to all the gurus, but until you apply it, you're just collecting information. Wisdom only becomes power when it's lived. So as we move through these practices, I want you to actually feel them. Imagine yourself doing them. Taste the stillness. Hear the silence. Let it imprint on your soul. The first and perhaps most vital practice is breath awareness. Not just breathing, but conscious breathing. Why? Because your breath is the bridge between your mind and your energy field. When your breath is shallow, erratic, or unconscious, your energy becomes unstable, fragmented. But when you breathe with intention, deep, slow, rhythmic, you begin to regulate the very frequency of your being. Toxic energy is chaotic by nature. It thrives in disorder, but controlled breath creates order, coherence, and stability. Just 5 minutes of deep diaphragmatic breathing can recalibrate your entire field. Try this. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4 again. That's called box breathing. It's ancient, it's powerful, and it's free. The second practice is energetic hygiene. Just like you wouldn't go days without showering, you can't afford to go days without cleansing your energy. Every interaction leaves a residue. Every place you walk into leaves an imprint, and if you don't clear it, it builds up like dust on a mirror, dimming your light. One of the simplest ways to clear your energy is through sound. Chanting, humming, even certain frequencies like 432 Hz or 528 Hz can dissolve energetic debris. But the most potent sound is your own voice. When you speak mantras or affirmations with presence, you're not just saying words, you're reprogramming your field. You're declaring to the universe, this is my frequency, this is my truth. Another powerful practice is grounding. Toxic energy thrives in the mental realm: overthinking, anxiety, overstimulation. But when you ground yourself into your body and into the earth, you become unshakable. Walk barefoot on grass. Feel the soil. Hug a tree. Sound cliché. That's because people forgot the science behind it. The earth literally emits negative ions that neutralize the positive ions, aka inflammation and stress in your body. It's not spiritual fluff, it's electromagnetic reality. The more grounded you are, the less susceptible you are to energetic attacks because you're rooted in truth, not illusion. Now let's go deeper into silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of everything. It's where the real downloads happen. When you sit in intentional silence every day, even for 10 minutes, you begin to tune in to your inner compass. You become aware of subtle shifts in your energy. You start to feel when something doesn't belong, when a thought or emotion isn't yours. This discernment is your superpower. It allows you to reject toxic energy before it even enters. But you can't cultivate it if your mind is always loud. So practice silence like it's sacred, because it is. And then there's intention, the most underrated force in the universe. Your intention is your command to the quantum field. When you wake up in the morning, what's your first thought? Is it rooted in fear, or is it rooted in love? Before you scroll, place your hand on your heart and say, today, I choose to protect my peace. I choose to radiate light. I choose to be a clear vessel. That simple act of declaring your intention sends a ripple into your field. It's like setting the frequency on your spiritual radio. Toxic energy might still approach, but it won't stay because it won't find resonance. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself this: what energy am I radiating most of the time? Do I emit stillness, or do I leak chaos? Be honest, because this is where the work begins. If your internal state is scattered, no amount of sage or meditation will sustain your protection. But if your inner field is stable, clear, and rooted, you become a living firewall. Toxic energy may knock, but it can't open the door. There's a truth so deep that when you finally see it, it changes everything. You are not hurt by the energy of others. You are hurt by the parts of you that believe what they say. You are not wounded by their unjudgment, their rejection, their betrayal. You are wounded by the unhealed pain already living inside you. That's why one person can walk away from conflict untouched, while another spirals into anxiety, rage, or collapse. The toxic energy isn't the enemy, it's the mirror. It reflects what we still cling to. And once you stop holding on to pain, there's nothing left for negativity to stick to. You become like a mirror, reflecting but not absorbing, seeing but not reacting, open but untouched. But here's the paradox: most of us are addicted to our pain. Not consciously, of course, but pain becomes identity. I'm the one who was abandoned. I'm the one who was cheated on. I'm the one who always gets overlooked. These stories become the lens through which we see the world. And as long as we cling to those identities, we will keep attracting people and situations that validate them. Not because we're cursed, but because energy is loyal to the frequency we emit. And pain, when held onto, becomes a magnet. It pulls in more of the same. So what does it mean to stop holding on to pain? First, it means you stop resisting it. You stop pretending you're fine when you're not. You stop numbing yourself with distractions and finally feel what you've been avoiding. Because pain that is felt all the way through transforms. It dissolves. It leaves space behind. And in that space, peace can enter. Love can enter. Clarity can enter. But you have to make room. I once met a healer in the Andes who said something I'll never forget. He looked at me after a ceremony and said, "Your problem is not your pain. Your problem is your refusal to let go of it because you think it makes you who you are." That hit me like lightning, because I realized I was still carrying wounds that had become part of my personality. I wore them like armor, But that armor also kept love out. It kept freedom out. And I had to decide, do I want to be right about my pain, or do I want to be free? You may be wondering, how do I let go of something that hurt me so deeply? Something I didn't choose, something that changed me. The answer is not easy, but it is simple. You stop feeding it. You stop telling the story over and over. You stop reliving it in your mind. You stop using it as a reason to stay small, guarded, angry, or afraid. You stop giving it power every single day. This doesn't mean you pretend it didn't happen. It means you stop letting it define your now. Forgiveness plays a massive role here, but not the kind of forgiveness where you pretend to be okay. I'm talking about radical, soul-level forgiveness, where you release the need for justice because you realize the real justice is your freedom. Forgiveness doesn't mean you condone what happened. It means you refuse to let it poison you any longer. And when you forgive, truly forgive, the energetic cords of pain dissolve. Toxic energy loses its grip. You rise above it. So ask yourself, what pain am I still feeding? What story do I keep telling that keeps me trapped in the past? This is the moment where you reclaim your power, because every time you let go of a wound, your field becomes lighter. Every time you choose peace over drama, your frequency rises. Every time you refuse to react, you weaken the grip of toxic energy. Eventually, you reach a point where nothing outside you can disturb the stillness within. Not because the world changed, but because you did. When you become the mirror, clear, reflective, unattached, toxic energy has no chance. It crashes against your presence and dissolves. You don't fight it. You don't block it. You simply don't give it anything to hold on to. This is energetic mastery. This is true freedom. There comes a moment on every spiritual path, a final threshold, where protection no longer means creating distance from the world, but becoming so aligned with truth that nothing false can touch you. This is the final gate. And once you walk through it, you don't just become immune to toxic energy, you become a transmitter of light so powerful that darkness cannot stand in your presence. Not because you fight it, but because you are no longer available to it. You don't match its frequency anymore. You've transcended the game. What is this truth that makes you invincible? It's not a concept. It's not a belief system. It's not even a spiritual philosophy. It's your raw, unfiltered essence. It's who you are beneath the masks, beneath the conditioning, beneath the stories. Your truth is the part of you that cannot be corrupted, because it was never born and it will never die. It's the part of you that doesn't seek approval, doesn't perform, doesn't fear rejection. It simply is. And when you live from that place, not occasionally, but relentlessly, you become untouchable. Not in an arrogant way, in a peaceful, grounded, radiant way that makes people feel more themselves just by being near you. But here's the catch. Most people live in roles, not truth. They perform who they think they need to be for their job, their family, their friends, even their spiritual community. And every time you betray your truth, even in small ways, you weaken your field. You open yourself to distortion. Toxic energy loves falsehood. It feeds on pretense, on insecurity, on the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. That's why the most spiritually protected people aren't always the most enlightened. They're the most authentic. Living in truth means you stop lying to yourself. You stop saying yes when your soul screams no. You stop pretending you're okay just to keep the peace. You stop chasing things that don't feel aligned, even if they look impressive. And most of all, you stop abandoning yourself in order to be loved. Because the moment you betray yourself, you become energetically exposed. So what does it look like to live in truth? It looks like integrity, not just in your words, but in your energy. It means your inner world and your outer expression are one. You don't hide. You don't shrink. You don't inflate. You just are. And that being becomes your fortress. No walls. No shields. Just pure coherence. Truth also means owning your shadow. Because nothing weakens your field more than suppressed darkness. That part of you that judges, envies, manipulates, fears, It doesn't need to be banished. It needs to be seen, integrated, loved back into wholeness. Every time you disown a piece of yourself, you create vulnerability. But when you own everything, your light and your shadow, you become whole. And wholeness is impenetrable. Let me ask you, where are you not living in truth right now? What are you still hiding, suppressing, or pretending about? These aren't small questions, they are doorways. Because once you begin to live in full alignment, you'll notice something miraculous. Toxic energy stops showing up. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You no longer attract it. You no longer resonate with it. And even when it does appear, it passes through you like wind through open hands. No resistance. No reaction. Just presence. This is what I want you to know at the deepest level. You don't need to fight darkness. You just need to become so fully yourself that darkness has nowhere to land. That's the ultimate protection. That's the final gate. Walk through it and never look back. Have you ever felt like you're not entirely who you appear to be, like something deeper is moving beneath the surface of your everyday self, quietly stirring? Maybe you've sensed it in the stillness, in the noise behind the silence, or in that strange feeling that people look at you and see something, even if they don't know what it is. That thing unspoken, unshaped, but undeniably there, that's not your imagination. That's the first sign. And maybe, just maybe, it's because you're a dark, chosen one in disguise. We live in a world that teaches us to shrink, to conform, to stay in the light where it's safe, predictable, and familiar. But what if I told you that the real power doesn't live in the light? That the most awakened souls, the ones who carry ancient codes, the ones who shift timelines just by walking into a room, do not come from purity. They come from pain, from chaos, from darkness. And the calling isn't broadcasted loudly. It's whispered. It's coded into the way you feel different, the way you notice too much, the way you can't fully belong no matter how hard you try. You feel it, don't you? That strange pressure in your chest when you pretend to be normal. That inner voice that says, "This isn't it. I'm meant for something else." The first sign that you might be a dark, chosen one in disguise is the sense that you're watching your life unfold from a layer deeper than most people can understand. You're not just here to live a life, you're here to remember something. But you don't know what, and it gnaws at you. You go through the motions, you play the roles, but there's always this haunting feeling that you're not being all of who you really are. That's not confusion. That's a soul in disguise waking up. The disguise isn't fake, it was necessary. It kept you safe, it helped you survive. But now, the disguise is starting to crack, and what lies underneath isn't soft or safe, it's ancient, intense, and powerful beyond words. You've probably felt misunderstood most of your life, like people can't quite get you. You don't fit in boxes. You don't follow the script. You question things too deeply. You see beyond facades. That's the second sign. You're not broken. You're tuned in. You're not weird. You're wired differently. You've got eyes that see through masks and a heart that feels truths people are terrified to admit. You walk into rooms and feel the energy before a single word is spoken. You hear the lies behind the smiles. You sense the wound behind the anger. And it's not because you're overly sensitive. It's because you were built to walk between worlds. You've always been standing at the edge of things, half here, half elsewhere.